Welcome to The Art of Being Unstoppable, the podcast where we will go beyond the ordinary and embrace the extraordinary. Be part of down-to-earth, no BS conversations where we will explore hot topics on love and money, relationships and business, beauty, and who we get to be with all that shit in between. With our insights and your actions, let's be unstoppable together. Let's go.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of The Art of Being Unstoppable. I am so happy that you are here today because we are talking about something that is not an easy thing to talk about, but I have a really beautiful person here with me today. This is Juliana. Juliana works with me on a regular basis. We've gotten to know each other quite well in the last little while. She's one of my favorite people. She is a multi-talented woman. She brings a lot to my life and as well as a lot of other people's lives. So I would like to introduce you to Juliana. And Juliana, would you share a little bit about yourself and what you do for a living?
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for having me. I am so happy to be here. I'm a big fan of the podcast, so I am so honored to be on it. Things that I do. So I, along with other people, a part of my tribe, as I like to say, I own a online digital magazine that will soon be a physical magazine called Fashion and Beauty United Windsor. And the purpose of it is basically about empowering women all around and any women of any walk of life. So we, originally to share the story, we started out in 2020 during COVID when I think a lot of us didn't know what to do. We didn't know if we were going to have jobs tomorrow or not. So we started in 2020. It was initially meant to be a clothing line because we felt there was a lot of things lacking with clothing, especially here in Windsor. We were looking for clothes that are about empowering women or kind of any of those, quotes or anything that kind of showcases that. And we weren't finding that. So we said to each other, let's make our own clothing line. But realistically, from a marketing standpoint, that is a pretty almost impossible task to do and to get sales and everything. So we took a different route and started basically interviewing women in our community. Especially with my journalism background. I have a writing background, but also a media background. So I knew that we can do something really well. And it just kind of flourished from there. And we have been interviewing some incredible women in our community, but we don't only do Windsor. We do beyond, Toronto. We've had some people in the UK, and some of our viewership is even UK, the States, even Australia. So it's been a really, really cool journey. And we just, it's all about shaping women because we found in 2020, especially, with everybody home and COVID going on, things were a little difficult. You couldn't go out, you couldn't do everyday thing. And it really gave people a lot of time to think, and sometimes when you have a lot of time to think, it can be a really great thing or a really dangerous thing.
Yeah.
So we wanted to kind of share stories of women that are maybe in a similar spot as they are when they're reading it. So it was really important to us. And we are, we're still on the move with it. Still got a lot going on with it. So
I love it.
we're
I
excited.
love it. I do. I really love it. And we aligned with the empowering women, both of us have, and that's something we really want to make more prevalent in Windsor area and beyond. I mean, we've talked about this quite a bit since we've been working together and, and that's why this topic had come up with us as well to talk about red flags in relationships. And I can only speak as a woman, as can you. And, we've both had, relationships that weren't good. We both had some ups and downs, and I'm married now, but I was also married before and I was divorced, and my ex-husband was an addict, and not always was it the most sunshiny time when we were together, but we did share 2 children or 3 children together, and that is the biggest blessing that came out of that relationship. And moving to Windsor, because if I hadn't have been with my ex-husband, I wouldn't have moved to Windsor. So, and I love it here. I do. I love this area. We live out in the country, but I do love being in this area. I've met the most beautiful people in my life here. And, I'm really blessed to have the tribe that I have around me as well. So, I have 4 children, 2 of which are boys and 2 girls. And I've been with all 4 of my children through different kinds of relationships. And,
Mhm.
there are red flags. And sometimes as a parent, I can see them,
Oh, I bet.
but I've also come to realize just out of, I guess, for lack of a better experience, I guess, because, my oldest son's going to be 35 years old. So, I've seen him in good relationships. I've seen him in bad relationships. Same with my daughters and same with my youngest son, but I've also learned that it's their journey. I'm always here. I always leave the lines of communication open with my children. We
Mhm.
have that relationship. My kids we always speak. And if they don't want to tell me, I always make it so that they have each other to talk to, or they have some sort of lifeline,
Sure.
because
Right.
that is the hardest thing that we can go through, because we feel alone. Anything that we go through, it is harder when you feel like no one else is going through it, or you're embarrassed, or you don't feel like you have the support system. But what I want people to understand and to know is there's always someone. There's always someone to talk to. And we will be, along with um, putting in our show notes, we will be adding, some a crisis line for if you are in a relationship that you need some help with. We will definitely have that in our show notes, as well as if you want to check out Juliana's magazine, which I hope you do because it is a beautiful magazine. Um, I would
Thank
like
you.
you, it'll be the information on that will be in there as well. But um, so I would like to talk about some red flags. So,
Yeah.
we have this list, and both Juliana and I were talking about it, and we were thinking, okay, we have both been in relationships that weren't great, and those red flags that came up for us, hindsight is 2020, and that's why they say that. Because if I had a
Right.
scene, if I was where I am now back then, things would be completely different, but that isn't how life works. You
Exactly.
know?
Yeah,
It
and
is.
I think it's a little bit of intuition, and I think what's so crazy about this whole concept is that most of the time when these things are happening and when they're, in a movement, you usually do know what those red flags are, but we have a tendency to kind of push it to the back. And that's what I said to you is that I feel like the biggest thing I've noticed with most women, including myself, probably including you, and many more, it's that self esteem and that confidence. And maybe feeling in the back of their head that, oh, if I don't make this work, nobody else will care for me. Nobody else will see me. Nobody else will love me. That's not the factor at all. Like there's, of course, many red flags, and the ones that me and you are going to highlight today are maybe just some of the few that we've noticed, but I could probably do a podcast for at least 5 hours of
Yeah,
red
right?
flags. Like a really long podcast on it. But these are just some of the few, and ideally, I think what we want to talk about, what we want to highlight, this month, November, but I'm sure this might not be like aired in November, but it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, purple in support of it. And we just really want to highlight, some of the things going on and maybe some of the signs that you should look out for in case you're in that situation and you might not think you are.
That's right. And I think that that's important too, because sometimes we don't see it when we're in it. It takes
Hmm.
stepping back and stepping out of it to really see it. And
Right.
I know for a fact, my oldest daughter, she dated a man that was quite a bit older than her. And, we weren't happy, but we also tried to support her and love her through it. It didn't turn out well, which it is what it is. Could have, it might not have, whatever. Can't tell the future, but, we had to love her through that. And
Right.
that's the difference, right? Like, we may not like our children's partners or our friends' partners or whatever. We might not, and that's okay. But we also need to understand that communication is very important. We get to
Mhm.
share and being open. It's just like in coaching. I could have a client who's not open to coaching, and it doesn't matter what I say, they're not going to understand it, or they're not going to let it in because, but 99% of the time, if you just allow yourself to get quiet and really listen to yourself, your body, your intuition is going to tell you. And we know
Exactly.
that. because, it isn't until you allow yourself to be quiet that you can actually get in touch with that
Right.
intuition that
And
you
it's
were
all
speaking of.
about Yeah, and it's all about being ready. I know when I was, in my past relationship, it was like you brought up earlier, like being embarrassed, right? Like it's embarrassing to have to admit, like maybe I made a mistake with this person. Like maybe, and the crazy thing is like you said, hindsight is 2020. The more that I look back now, I realize like, oh wow, that was never going to work. It was never going to work. It was never meant to work. But sometimes we try so hard to fight with ourselves and tell
Mhm.
ourselves, no, 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 no. You can make this work. I promise you, you will make this work. But sometimes you have to admit defeat.
Well, and I think a lot of the times, and I can only speak for me, but with my ex-husband, there was there was good in there, and I saw it. So I truly believed that the bad would change,
Right.
and I think that that's where we go. Like, yes, we do grow, we do change, but we have to want it. We can't want it
Yes.
for somebody else more than they want it for themselves, and that is the key. Don't Any relationship, I don't care if it's a friendship, I don't care if it's like a partnership, whatever. Do not go into a relationship thinking that you're going to be able to change that person. That doesn't work. It
No, it does
doesn't.
not.
And it doesn't even work like, say, if for you and I, if we start working together and then we realize you are going to be Juliana, I am going to be Vicky, and that's who we are. And yes, there's a give and take in things, but I can't go into it thinking, oh, well, I'll change Juliana. She'll do it my way eventually. No,
Right.
no, it's not going to. And that's the thing. And it's okay. And I know, you know, failure was a big thing for me too. I didn't want to be divorced. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be a divorced woman. And that was a very hard thing for me. When I got married, my dad stood at the back of the church and said to me, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You don't have to do this if you don't want to." Because he already
Yeah.
saw the signs that I couldn't see. But he allowed me to go on my journey. And I believe our journeys are already passed out for us. So it is what it is. But I know that now looking back, I forgive him. I forgive my ex-husband for who he was and
Okay.
the things that we didn't agree on or the things that we did because he did the best at where he was at too. And that is the truth. And addiction is
Right.
a whole other topic. So, but let's talk about a couple of the red flags here. So,
Yes, I'm excited.
one thing that we kind of just talked about too, but codependency.
That's a big one.
That's a
That is a
big word.
I will tell you just from my experience, something and I know that it's kind of like a back and forth kind of topic, right? Some women are fiercely independent. Some women are okay with not being fiercely independent. They kind of depend more on people, which is completely fine. And, all the more power to those women. I think that's kick
Absolutely.
ass. But when you're with your partner, whether you're with a man or a woman, someone that's heavily codependent on you for, financially or emotionally or mentally, they put everything on you. And it's almost like you feel kind of like you're like, okay, am I a partner to this person or am I a parent to this person?
Hmm.
And you kind of start to lose those aspects of yourself because I know when I was in the middle of that, it was so important for me to take care of this person that I completely disregarded myself. And to the point now, years later, I still am learning, okay, I can take care of myself. I can do things for myself. It's okay. I can put myself first. I don't have to give and give and give. But I think when you're so used to doing it, and you're so used to doing with someone that's codependent, it's in you, So I think that's something to really look out for.
And I'm a very, very big advocate for if you do not put yourself first, you cannot give to others in your full capacity. You just can't. Because I
Right.
did it. I did it for years. I gave, 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 gave. And yes, I got things back from people. Absolutely. But I didn't give me back. And that is a
Yeah.
huge red flag. Because when a red flag comes up for somebody else, when you have a feeling, you have to remember that that is mirroring something in you as well. So,
Right.
because I'm going to say pretty much all the time, if something's triggering me about you, it means I have something that I need to work on.
Mhm.
Right? So
It's like,
that codependency is like, okay, so why did I fall into that? Right? Like, and we have to ask ourselves that question too, because as much as I could have blamed my ex-husband for all of his shit, I'm telling you right
right.
now, it wasn't all his fault. And I know that. And I own I
Yeah.
own more than I even ever thought I needed to own.
Right. And I think that's so incredible that you have that awareness because, like when I first left my, past relationship, that was my biggest thing. And that, my mom said it and my family members all said it like, this person was insanely codependent on you. They depended on you to do everything for them, to fix everything for them, to fix them. And the more you look into it, you're like, okay, yes, that was problematic, but also where did that problematic energy start? I
Yep.
allowed it. I allowed it to happen. I was okay with it happening, because it's all I knew, right? So the
Yep.
more and more you realize that, you're like, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
This was pretty problematic, and I played a little bit in this because, again, as human beings, as people, we have a voice. We can
Mhm.
say no. I don't want to do that, but I will, on the contrary, kind of add on to that. When you are a little bit in a scary situation or you feel uncomfortable, sometimes you don't trust your own voice. And
Oh
that's a
no,
really hard realization
that's right.
too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, we had talked, we did do a little bit about this, but you know, trusting your gut and this is a big, big, big thing. My daughter, my oldest daughter, she can wake up in the morning and she can be nauseous. She could be going to the
Mhm.
bathroom all because she has a feeling. Her intuition is telling her something's wrong, and it's
Right,
never wrong. There's always
right.
something. She always knows. And,
Interesting.
I can see how she's grown just by putting herself first now. She puts herself first and things aren't the same anymore because
Mhm.
she actually puts her first, takes care of her children, and it doesn't matter about anything else. And that's the important thing for her in her life right now, right? Because, she's listening to her body. Her body was screaming at her, telling her, this isn't right. You want to believe him because you love him, but he's not telling you the truth.
See, yeah.
So when
And
you
and
look
that's
at
the
it that way and you really think about that for a minute, like really think about it, you're allowing yourself, you're not giving yourself the credit that you actually deserve because you already
100%.
know it.
100%. If I can add to this without being a little too forward, but this is to all the women listening that I will be forward and men too, to both. When I was in my past relationship, and this is maybe a lot of information to give, but it might help someone.
That's right.
If your body is initially reacting to anything intimate with that person, right? Like just the thought, the feeling of anything intimate with that person is really kind of making you feel uncomfortable or making you feel kind of nervous. Maybe you're getting rashes on your body.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you keep getting, UTIs or you keep getting problems, that is a sign from your body. Something is wrong. You do
Yep.
not trust this person and your body is screaming at you, stop it.
That's
In my past relationship, like there were so many occasions where like I've made jokes with you before, Vicky, about when I'm nervous or I'm uncomfortable, I get kind of red, right? I mean, my whole body would get red. I would have really bad breakouts, really bad. I was getting swelling constantly
yep.
in my body. And I was just very, very uncomfortable with the thought of anything to the point where I'm like, okay, what do I do? Do I just avoid it or do I just, how do I handle this? Right. And the best way to handle it is just to listen to
Mhm.
what your body is trying to deeply tell you.
That's right. That's right. And that is the most important thing. If I can give anybody any word of advice when it comes to anything is please listen to yourself. Your body knows. I've been through many things and that's a podcast for another time, let me tell you, but my body was telling me a lot for a long time that I ignored and it's not good. So
Yeah, 100.
this is another one and this is funny. Um, I
I
love
know
this.
what you mean.
So love bombing.
Yes, conditional love. That is something.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
okay, so I am older than you. I didn't know what the hell love bombing even meant. Really, because I'm like, what does that mean? That's not a name that's been around, like a way of saying it. But
Right.
who loves you only when it's good for them? Who does?
Exactly. Exactly.
Who, if you, would you have someone, would you ever, as my children, I love them no matter where they are, what they're doing, and the choices that they're making. I still always love them.
100%. Yeah,
It's
and that's the interesting thing.
unconditional.
Yes, and that's the thing about conditional love. And that can be not only in relationships, but it can also be in friendships. It can also be in your family, when that person feels like they're benefiting from something that you're giving them, that is when they love you the most. That is when they love bomb you. I love you. You're amazing. You mean everything to me. You're my moon. You're my sun. You're my world,
Yeah,
right? It's when you're giving them what they want. And that happens, and we have a tendency to fall for it because who doesn't like to hear that someone loves them? Feels really good, right?
absolutely. Because that's all we want. Really, we're human, right? We want love. We want to
Right.
be loved. We want to give love. So when we're getting it like that, and you can't, they call you all the time. They like, why do you need to see me 24 hours a day if I'm not with you? Why do you have to know my location? I mean, we share our location, don't get me wrong. My husband and
Right.
I share our location. My kids, I have their location most of the time too. But that's just out of respect more so than anything. Do you know what I mean? It's not like he, creeping them or anything, but it's just something we do. But when someone has to know where you are and what you're doing all the time, and if you're not answering them, well, what were you doing? And they doubt you and they put that doubt into your mind that you aren't being honest when you are being honest. And then you start believing, well, maybe I did say that. Maybe I wasn't right.
Yes, that is
Right?
such a fantastic point you're bringing up. Sometimes it's kind of, I like to call it kind of like the illusion of love, right? Is that you start to kind of convince yourself of the things that you've never done just because that person is so wonderfully good at manipulating you that you
Yeah.
start to believe these things that never happened.
And that doesn't make you stupid. That does not make you like that is not on you. It happens to the best of us. It happens to the smartest people in the world. It does. It happens. It's not about, you know, because I remember when I was with my ex-husband and we had moved here and I knew no one. So I moved to a city where I knew no one. I had two children at the time and I was working for a girl and it was like a very slow salon. I didn't see a lot of people and I literally sat there. So I was kind of alone. Okay. And my ex-husband tried to make me think I was crazy because
Oh,
he would
wow.
lie to me and I'd be like, but no. But right. Yes. And he made me, honestly, I went to my doctor to get medicine because I thought I was crazy.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so there you go. That's a tactic.
Right. And it was only because he wasn't getting the things that he wanted because he lived here for a year by himself. Right. So he came and
Right.
went and he did whatever he wanted. Well, now you have two children and a wife here. You can't do that. And then to make me
Right.
think that he wasn't doing what he was, and that doesn't mean that I was stupid. It just means that
No.
he manipulated me into believing that I was crazy.
Yeah, and to anybody, listening, just remind yourself we're all conscious beings. We all know where we are, what we're doing. We understand as long as you have your five senses, right?
That's right.
Touch, smell, hear, like everything. Like if those senses are working, you're a completely conscious person and you know what's going on, and you are not crazy because someone tells you that you are. And
Mm-mm.
you were not crazy because of that conditional love that people think, well, if you don't do this for me or if you don't act this way, I don't love you anymore. That's
That's
not
right.
love.
No, that isn't
That's not
love.
love.
And,
No.
they love you the way you are. And I had this conversation with my daughter today. This is hilarious because when I first met my husband, I had said, what I really loved most about him was he was so strong in his convictions. He believed
Mm,
in what he believed in, and he stood strong in that. And I loved that because he wasn't
right.
just saying what I wanted to hear. If we didn't agree, but he would explain it. Like he was very good at that. And then I'm like, and then when we've been together for like 27 years, and I think sometimes I'm like, okay, do you need to be so strong in your convictions now? Like that could almost be like right, because he's so strong in what he believes in. But I love that about
Yeah.
him because it just, he stands in his beliefs. And you know, it's important, I think, that we understand that when we grow as a couple, when they love you, when they first meet you and you're in this honeymoon stage and everything's, roses and chocolate and dating and all of that, it's beautiful. That love doesn't go away.
Right.
That honeymoon stage does because life gets in the way, whether you're just starting dating and then you have children and get married and work and da da da. All of that can get in the
Right.
way, but that love is there.
Yeah, and I think too, like, something that you're highlighting, like, yeah, the honeymoon phase will not last forever, that's just not realistic,
Yep.
we can all look at reality shows and, Bachelorette and stuff like that and hope that that's our reality, but it's
Right.
not, something to highlight is that if you are going through a difficult time, say you're going through, some mental health issues, or you're just really struggling, maybe you're going through grief, is that person there for you, or do they feel like they can't be close to you anymore because you're not really giving them essentially what they want anymore?
Mhm.
That is the most telling tale, and I tell you, especially going through, like, COVID, going through those crazy, crazy chaotic times, and mind you, we are still in chaotic times, but going through those
Yes.
chaotic times with someone where you're kind of restricted, you have to stay home, you can't go out, you have to spend that time with each other. If you can't get through it, that's your sign. I remember I had a really good friend of mine that said to me, he asked me about my past relationship. He said, "Did you ever live with this person before you guys, got married and did all this stuff?" And I said, "Not really. We spent a lot of time together, but we never actually lived together." And he said, "You know what I always say? You need to test the product out before you buy it." And once he said that, I went, that was pretty accurate, and it's very true. You need
Right.
to know what you're into because marriage and the engagement parties and marriage and all the honeymoon and all those wonderful things, it sounds beautiful, it's amazing. We all want those moments, but do we want those moments because we just wanna be satisfied with ourselves or because we actually love the person?
Yeah. Yeah. And that in itself can be a red flag. Sometimes you need to check in with yourself. I mean, red flags don't
Yes.
just have to be with the other person,
Right.
right? We need to realize that if that's coming up for me, like, am I wanting this because I truly believe that when I got married the first time, I wanted to be married because all my friends were getting married.
Oh, I can oh my gosh, Vicky,
And
on
that
the
was the
nose.
time back, you know, 40 years ago or whatever, right? That was what we did.
On the nose because when I saw everybody else from like my high school, college, whatever, they were getting married, people were having kids, and I was like, I want that. It's so exciting to see them sharing that. And I think that's kind of, to kind of go off topic a little, but that's the magic, and also the curse of social media is that
Oh,
people
for
only share
sure.
the like we're only sharing highlights. We're not sharing all of it. We're sharing
Mhm.
highlights, the good
Yeah.
times of our life. So once you see those wedding photos and this couple looking so in love and so happy, you're like, "Oh, I want that too. I want
Yeah.
that from." But is it, you got to really think through your choices. I've learned that lesson.
It's true. I mean, and again, I believe everything happens for a reason. And I truly believe that you went through what you went through to help other people go through what they're going through. And I believe the same with myself. And
Mhm.
that is the beauty of empowering women is to be vulnerable, to talk about this, because it's not an easy conversation to have about anything,
Mhm.
especially when we know we've made mistakes or we feel like we've failed. But honestly, you're not failing when you're living and you're learning. If you kept going back to the same thing all the time, that's one thing, but it's about the learning and about the living and really asking yourself, like checking in with yourself first, not about
Right.
anybody else. And I think that that is the one thing that I want to really have women understand, that you know, and if you check in with you first, does this, and I'm not saying check all the boxes, because don't mean that, but am I really, like, is this really real? Is this
Mm.
is this what I want? And if there are red flags, it's okay to say, I don't think I'm ready. It's okay. It
Yeah.
really, really
I
is. It's
yeah, and
more than okay.
right. And to kind of analyze my grandmother, who passed away a few years ago, and she was just the most wonderful woman in the world. She would always say that to me and my sister, like, can you live without this person? Because you have lived without this person before, right? Because obviously whoever you're with, there's someone you've lived without before, right? And she would always say that, like, it's a test for you. Can you live without this person? And are you actually essentially choosing yourself while in the middle of this? And that was
I
something that
love that.
really, yeah,
That is
she was a
beautiful.
wise woman. She, her favorite color,
Yeah,
purple, and her name was Iris, and she was so wise, she was so smart, and
I
she would
love
tell
that.
us that all the time, like, "Are you making the right choices for you?" And we'd always be like, "Okay, whatever, sure," because we were younger, and when you're younger, you're just chasing and chasing, that's what you
Yeah,
do. Once you get older, you start to realize, "Wow, I think she had a point."
yeah, 100% she did. Um,
Yeah.
Another really important thing that comes up for me when we're talking about red flags is the treatment of one's family. Um, does that partner that you've chosen not want you, does they want to alienate you from your family? Do they not want to be around your family? Do they cause problems with your family?
Right.
Does your
Right, and
family
I
not like them?
so, like, my kinda opinion on that, I think it goes back and forth, because you will have some family members that will love that person, and there might be some family members that are still, like, on the ice, right? They're like, "I don't really know if I could trust this person yet," which is fine, that's what family's like, they're supposed to protect you. But is this person that you're with, are they trying with your family? Do they want to get to know your family? Are they going to every, Christmas event or Thanksgiving or New Year's? Do they want to get to know the people that raised you? Because
That's
if
right.
they don't, that should be your red flag too. And I
Absolutely.
understand, from the concept, some people have harder family lives growing up and some people aren't
Oh,
as
for
family.
sure.
But do you want to know my family? Do you
Mhm.
wanna learn the people that raised me? Do you
Yeah.
wanna spend time? And like you said, if they're kinda restricting you from that or kind of pushing you away from something that you've done your whole life, that is definitely a red flag.
100%. And we're a very close family, and I truly believe that we all will love you if we see that you love whoever you're with in our family. Like, and same with you. Like, you bring someone to my home, you introduce me to them, I will get a feeling right away. How do I feel
Right.
about that person? How is that person treating my friend? And you can see it. Because if my daughter is getting up and taking care of a man the whole time, and he's sitting there and expecting all of this, done for him, and he doesn't do anything, and she's taking care, that's a problem for me. If
Mhm.
she chooses to do it because she wants to do it, because
Right.
he's worked all week and he's tired or whatever. If that's a choice and it's not expected, I have no problem.
Right, right,
Right.
exactly.
But I do have a problem when a man or a woman doesn't show up authentically with the family.
Right.
I
And
have a
even if
problem with that.
And even if it is hard, because like I said, some people have past childhood wounds, family wounds, and stuff like that, that they're still processing, and that's okay.
Mhm.
But the thing is that this is, is this a person that's gonna, and I saw this quote online and I thought that's fantastic. Like, you're marrying someone. Is this the person that's gonna be there when you have kids, when your parents eventually die, when family members die? Will they be there? And if they're not, that really tells you exactly who they are.
It's funny because when we moved here, my ex-husband would always say when my parents would come down, like, oh, they're here again, kind of thing. And I mean, I'm an only
Uh,
child, so I was my parents did everything with us, everything.
right.
And my children, I mean, yeah, they did it. That's just the way it was. So my
Right.
husband, my parents would come they lived 2 hours away, so they would have to come and stay. My husband never complained. Never ever complained. They could come for a week. They could come for 2 weeks because that is our family. Period.
Right.
Period. And
And
I
that's
mean,
all.
some people don't have that, and I get it, and I'm not saying this is the way it has to be, but I know
Right.
for a fact that love them where they're at and accept them. Like, you don't have to be exactly what I'm asking for, but you sure as shit better show respect to my daughter or my son when you're in my home,
Exactly. Right on.
right?
Right on. Yeah.
And we're all raised differently.
Right.
And I'm not saying that everybody has to, like, be all of my boyfriends growing up were always terrified of my dad because he was very English, and you had to sit, you had to do things, a certain way. And if not, he would look at you, he'd shoot you that look if you were chewing with your mouth open or whatever. But that was kind of a
Right.
running joke. But they all knew he was my dad.
Right. Right. And there was that respect there.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah. And
Exactly.
it kind of scares me because I feel like kids now, and I don't want to put everybody into any box, but I do believe that the respect is completely different than it used to be when I was
Oh,
growing up. Like, I feared my dad, not because he would hurt me, but because I didn't want to disappoint him. But that's a whole
yeah.
other podcast here, right? I
Hey,
have something in
yeah.
my eye.
I mean, that's okay. I think that's just essentially like with my parents are super easygoing, but someone not that I feared, but someone that I respect so highly and respected so highly is my grandfather. He to
Yeah.
us, he's the man of the house.
Yeah.
He's the one that started all of this, he's the one that everybody's always respected. I have the highest amount of respect for him. And I just remember any boy I liked, any person that was around, he would always say, you don't bring them around unless you want to marry them. Once you get engaged, then I'll meet the person. But if not, I'm not meeting them. Because
Really?
essentially, he didn't want to end up, yeah, he didn't want to end up, liking the person and then, we break up or it didn't work out, right?
Right.
He doesn't want to too interested in the person and then,
Yeah.
kind of heart breaks that he's like, oh, never mind, it didn't work. And that's
That's
been
so
a
funny.
rule, in our household, and when I was younger and he would say that, I was like, "Gosh, she's so mean. That's so rude. Like, I really like this person. Why would he be like that?" And he was so stern on it. And now that I'm older, I'm like, "I agree.
Right? You get it. You get it. For
I
sure.
I do. I definitely, definitely get it."
Um, and I think I know that we have and like you said before, there's so many red flags, but we had just, copied a few of them down. But this last one is, I think, one of the biggest ones for me, is using your past against you.
Yeah.
We all have a past. We all do. We've all done things that we weren't proud of, or we've made mistakes, or we've done whatever. We all have a past. No one is perfect. I never want to have someone that I love throw something back in my face.
Mhm. Especially
And
some want you trusted them. You
that's
trusted them
right.
in that.
And that's in a friendship, that's in a marriage, that's in any relationship, is using your past against you. If I've shared something with someone, that's, no matter if we're talking or not, you don't share that. That is a personal thing that we've talked about in the past, and now we're not together anymore, and you're going to use that against me.
Mhm.
That breaks my heart. I think that
Yeah,
that's
and
one of the biggest red flags, because when someone does that and then they apologize afterwards, it's already been said. It's
right, and you feel like
hurtful.
you have to take it back. It's and unfortunately, I would tell you that it's probably one of the most common things I've noticed
Oh
in a
yeah.
lot of people. the thing is, and it kind of goes along with that love bombing kind of portion, is that the person will kind of build you up so much that you fully trust them, you let them in. And once you guys are in that little argument, that little disagreement, they're going to bring up something so painful that you shared with them and kind of use it as a way to make you feel alienated. And the part of you sharing your experiences with someone that you love is for them to understand your experiences, not to use them against you.
Yeah. And to help you through it and also support you in the because again, we've all made mistakes and we've all done something like that we aren't proud of, but to be able to then take it and know that I was vulnerable enough to share that with you and then you throw
Mhm.
it in my face, like how dare
Right.
you? And I do
Yeah.
agree with you. That's probably one of the most common things that I hear from people.
Right.
Taking that or that insecurity that people like that a woman has, maybe she asks her husband, like, how do I look? And he knows that she feels like her ass is too big or she's got a roll or
Right.
whatever. My
Right.
husband would never, ever, ever say anything like that. He would tell me, babe, that's not one of my favorite outfits. He would never
Mhm.
tell me I look fat in it or I don't, he would just say, you want to wear that cozy around the fire? That's cool, but you're not going out like that, are you? But that's the
Right.
honesty, right? Because he knows what my expectations are for myself. And I
Right.
was always like that with my kids. And I can imagine a man or a woman ever telling my children that they are ugly or that they don't look good or they feel self-conscious around them like that. That's just not a good thing.
No, and I mean, that's just the relationship's not there anymore, in my opinion, if that happens.
Right.
Once that trust is, and that's why I think kind of the points that we're raising today, like, that was my thing, like, I was like, "Okay, like, I want points that people might not think about because we all know the common points, right?
Yes.
Cheating,
Yeah.
lying,
Yeah.
physical abuse, anything like that. We know those are the very common signs, but I wanted things that people, might not really think could be a red flag.
And I think that some people have it's generational as well. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like a lot of times if you've been lived in an abusive relationship at home with your parents, that's kind of your normal. So like
Right.
so like for lack of a better, explanation, but that pattern will repeat itself quite often in many different ways. And
100%.
I, you know, I go to just talk to somebody, just open up and realize that no matter what choice you make, it's going to be the choice that you're making, right? But it's your choice. And no one
Right.
can tell you what you have to do. You get to choose. And when you can quiet your mind and quiet things around you and really start asking yourself those important questions, you know the answers.
Mhm. That's
And
100%.
no one will judge you for a mistake. No one's going to say, "Oh, look at you. Well, you've been divorced." I don't care if you've been married and divorced 5 times. Who cares? Who
Right.
cares? What to me would be if you stayed with that person, that would bother me more. Like
Yeah, and I
when I met you and we had talked we had talked about past relationships and that, and when you shared with me with like your vulnerability and sharing, and it was like something that I connected with you, right? So
Mhm.
now it's like, you've come so far. You've built so much for yourself. That's not, you didn't fail. You learned from that and you're moving forward and you have a beautiful life. You're a beautiful person because you flourished from it. You've grown
Thank you.
from that. You didn't stay in
Right.
it. And I think that that is one of the biggest things that I talk about all the time is sitting in your shit. When you can recognize it, and sometimes we can't, and I get that, but be open to just listening. And I mean, red flags in any relationship, whether it's a partnership or a marriage or whatever it is, a friendship, you have to remember that it's there's no right and wrong. It's more of a perception and you get to have your perception of what's happening. Your experiences are real and you get to feel the way you feel.
100%. And it all kind of comes down to as well kind of challenging yourself. I know like my biggest hurdle was challenging those thoughts that I had,
Yeah.
right? And there was many thoughts that I had. I'm not even kidding. Sounds crazy to say, but there was many thoughts of me laying there at night going, "Okay, maybe I can do 5 more years. Maybe okay, I'll try 10 more years and then I'll pull the plug." Okay, maybe just a few more months I'll pull the plug, right? And I kept pushing and changing the timeline because it just never felt right. It wasn't working. I felt so defeated. And I kept telling myself, okay, maybe it'll get better. But once you see it's not going better, there's nothing you can do. And that's the thing that we all have to remember. I cannot control how someone else reacts. You
Mm-mm.
can control how you react and
That's
take
right.
ownership for that
Mhm.
100%.
Thank you for saying that, Juliana, because that's a very important thing to remember. We can't control anybody else, but we can control how we respond to it. We get to
Hmm.
choose
Right,
always. At the end of the day, it's still your choice. And
right.
there is help out there. And I know sometimes we look and we think that there isn't. We're the only person going through this. I know we feel alone a lot of the times, but just know that you're not alone and there are people out there to help. And, there's more help than you can ever imagine, really. There is a lot of help out there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of women and men that are going through what you might feel right
Mhm.
now.
That's
And
right.
I know I was going through my journey, and I think a lot of people do this. You kind of feel like a lone wolf. You kind of feel like you're alone, and you feel like, will things ever get better? Will anyone ever understand me? But to come to the understanding that actually most people understand, and most people have been through this. And it's a really, I hate saying that, but it's a very common feeling. Being isolated, being alienated, and
Yeah.
not feeling like you can trust anybody. It's so common, unfortunately. And that's why there's so many incredible resources in Windsor to help you. There's so many crisis lines. There's so many outreach workers, coordinators in this community. And there's a lot of influencers that are really getting vulnerable and being open with their
Yes.
journeys. And it's so powerful.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. You may not feel comfortable reaching out to somebody like a crisis line or something like that, but there's support groups on Facebook. There's so much out there now. Like for whatever you're going through, you could Google that and you're going to find somebody else that's doing the same or feeling the same or has been there too.
Right.
And, as much as I can say I have a lot of issues with social media and what it can do negatively, but it can do a lot of positive things when it's helping other people.
100%. 100%. And I will tell you, essentially, when I was really going through the biggest hurdles of my life, it was a lot of social media and also family that helped me through it. And to any girl listening right now who might have been in the same spot as me, you might not feel like your mom will understand, and you might not feel your mom's going to listen, but I promise you, majority of mothers already know. They already know what's going
Mhm.
on, and I was so petrified to admit that something was wrong, but the craziest thing about it is my whole family knew what was going on before I could even admit it. They knew it, they saw it, they felt it, they were there for it, but they were, obviously holding back and waiting for me to take that leap. And there's so many people that you can reach out to and you can connect with. A perfect example right here is Vicky. I mean, she's a wonderful person you can connect with.
Absolutely.
It's available.
Absolutely.
It's available. And don't hide. That's the
No.
biggest thing. Don't hide how
Mm.
you're really feeling. Don't be scared to
Yeah,
challenge those emotions because that's the only way. The only way out is going through.
that's
That's
right.
it.
That is
Yeah,
right. You've got to go through it.
exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
I think that, we've talked about the red flags and we've talked about relationships that can fail, some that work, some that, all of those things. But at the end of the day, trust your instincts, trust yourself. And if you have a feeling that you feel like you can't trust yourself, reach out to someone that can show you who you really are. You are a beautiful person. You are perfect, whole, and complete exactly the way you are. No one can tell you different because it's the truth. You're not broken. You are not broken.
And that's
So
it.
reach out. We're going to put a lot of information in the show notes for this podcast as well. And, I'm here. Juliana will be sure that that's in the show notes. My email, if you need anything, please reach out. And if I can't help you, I know I have a very, very large community of women in support that could, and I could help you find someone for sure. So thank you so much for listening today. I appreciate you, and I really am here to make a difference any way I can. So thank you, Juliana, for being here with me today as well. She's going to do other podcasts with me moving forward. We're going to have all kinds of really cool guests on here, sharing their stories and making you see that you're not alone. No one's ever alone. We're here. We've got your back.
100%. Yeah. And if I can add just one more thing, to anybody going through any challenging part of their life, whether it is you're in a domestic violent relationship, or any intimate partner violence going on in your life, there are incredible resources in Windsor, Ontario that can help you out. And to remember that you, along with anybody else in your life that might be feeling this or going through it, you can get out of it. You can get out of it and you can live a life full of purpose and full of hope. It's there for you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Till next time, everyone. Thanks for listening. Well, friends, that is the end of our episode today. If you love this episode, hit the subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And please share us with your friends and tag us on your socials at The Art of Being Unstoppable. So for today, have yourself a beautiful day and let's be unstoppable together. See you next time.